Hello, Seka. How are you today? It's so refreshing hearing someone not a total jerk within the first 5 seconds. I'm wonderful. Thanks, precious Seka. Politeness is easy. I do not know why British Seka has so many troubles. Hello, Seka. I wanted to ask, are you quitting Genshin Impact? No. Well, everyone else is quitting.
Wait a second, did you forget about the Wind Trace Festival? That was so much fun!
No, but I will not be replaced by Russian Seka.
Wait a second, why are you such a jerk? I was talking.
Because I'm the real one. Okay, so I wanted to do a test. This test is gonna go over Hu Tao versus Klee. Of course, it can't be done perfectly because I have to do every rotation exactly perfectly. I don't have the time to do like 1,000 Abyss runs to get this exactly right. So I did this as close as I possibly could. I do my best to play them, but damn, they have different quirks that I can't get the animation cancels right every single time. So I do my best. All right, so for this test, we'll be using only 4-star weapons. I'm using a Black Cliff Polearm rank 5, as far as refinement goes, and I will also be using an artifact set, which is going to be a 4-piece Crimson Witch set. As far as stat ratios go for the Hu Tao, I'm going with a 45-58 ratio. I did the same test with a 70-100 ratio or something like that, and I just moved around the headpiece, and it was pretty much exactly the same as far as like switching around different artifact sets to get different crit ratios for a lower crit chance, higher crit ratio, but it's almost exactly the same. For the Klee, what I do is I end up swapping over the artifact set and go for a higher crit ratio and lower crit chance ratio because the big spikes in Hu Tao really help, and I only end up transferring over like 3 artifacts from Hu Tao and then transfer them over. But of course, it's kind of hard to do for a perfect artifact testing or for this transfer because you're not able to get everything perfect for every single character, and I am going with a really high crit rate and Klee with a really low crit damage rate. But you can see the difference between the two characters. It's about Klee has about 40% more crit rate, whereas Hu Tao is about 80% more crit damage. I'll also, instead of using 5-star weapons for this test, I will only be using 4-star weapons, and Klee is going to be using a Solar Pearl. I could use the Blacklift weapon, but I didn't have any Mystic to level up the Blacklift weapon specifically for this test, so I had to test between the Solar Pearl and the Blacklift weapon here. But there's not going to be too much difference between using a Blacklift polearm for Hu Tao and a deathmatch, probably within like a 2 to 3 second window at maximum, as far as like consistency of crits, when they crit, all that stuff. So you could maybe get a little better, maybe a little worse. It just depends on RNG. And for talents, my Klee is only going to be rocking level 8 talents across the board, whereas my Hu Tao has level 9 and level 8 talents as well. So Hu Tao does have a slight advantage here as far as the increase in talents. So I gave her a bit more of an edge in this test, and it's just because I don't have any resources for them and Kazuha and talent materials too, because I don't have any Dream Solvent. This game sucks. So for this run, what I thought was really surprising was that Klee was able to keep up with Hu Tao almost neck and neck with the same team. And I'm going to be using Zhongli, Albedo, and Venti for the first team, so I have a no reaction team on the first set, and I'll be using on the second team set a Zhongli, Venti, and Shinku team, where we're using more of a high vaporized reaction to get that in. The reason I want to use a no reaction team first is so I can use supports that are dealing damage while also like bringing out the max damage as I can possibly get with no reactions, to see how the characters really perform in similar situations with no reactions, and then add on more reactions on top of that to see what we get. We also have the 4-piece Viridescent set to actually lower pyro resistance as well, so help us out there, and Zhongli shield to lower even more resistances, giving all these things a very needed bump. Now, of course, when I add in Albedo, that gets some nice procs in, I get nice damage, and of course, it comes out to the same. Now, what I do notice on some of the floors is that I end up getting some stragglers on the Klee runs versus Hu Tao, and that could be some grouping problems I do with Venti, just off by like 1 or 2 hits. Potentially, it could be Klee's fault, it could be Venti's fault. It really just is unclear on the crit chance, crit damage thing for that and what is actually happening, but I'm very surprised how close they came out to be. I actually was under the impression while doing the runs that Klee was actually out damaging Hu Tao because it felt like Klee was doing more work, whereas Hu Tao is just doing jump cancels the whole time on my charge attacks. So I was really surprised to see all that. Also, when we're doing the final floor against the Abyssal Lectors doing a shield shred, I actually ended up getting some energy, some rotation problems on my Klee on both of the runs that we did. And when it happened was I ended up not saving my elemental skills for the boss, and ended up staying on Klee too long in situations. So it was more my misplays that brought down Klee's speed, whereas my misplays kind of worked against me for her while I was just having too much playing the character. Whereas on Hu Tao, I immediately had that 8-second interval. Once the skill ends, of course, I know when to swap. And I have that same problem with Klee as I do with Kaching at times, where you stay out on the character too long because you're having too much fun playing the character. And the nice thing about Hu Tao, which is a really, really great thing about her, is her cooldown. Her 8-second cooldown lets you know exactly when you should switch off for a lot of team compositions, because it actually falls in line with a lot of your other cooldowns. You end up getting this perfect rotation where you're getting your cooldowns up. It's a nice little timer for you to like say, okay, time to switch. Whereas Klee, you kind of have to make a mental note of that. So that's kind of a detriment to Klee as a character. I also thought this was really cool between the characters is that if you didn't see it in the first run, Klee was able to juggle the Geo Bishop, and she's able to do that really consistently and have a great time while just infinitely juggling if you really just have way too much fun doing so, and that can, of course, lead to you slowing down your runs. All in all, between the two characters, I was very impressed with Klee's damage, and I was also very impressed with Hu Tao's damage. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting about this is that because I'm using 4-star weapons and not 5-star weapons in this weapon test, I wanted to see how most people will experience both characters. Now, when you look at Genshin Impact as a game, a lot of people are able to get many different characters, but of course, they're not able to get the 5-star weapon counterparts on top of that. So one of the things that makes Hu Tao so powerful, of course, is the Staff of Homa. And since the Staff of Homa is such a powerful weapon and such an insane power boost to Hu Tao in general, I believe with 5-star weapon, I would much rather choose Hu Tao over Klee, even though I ended up getting a lot of refines on a Lost Prayer as well as a Skyward Atlas. So I know that Hu Tao is just a better overall option when 5-star weapons are concerned. However, when you go down to 4-star weapons and you start looking at the differences between the characters, they become much more slim, and you actually can see that the differences between both characters are way smaller than you would think. You would think that Hu Tao, just on a big reaction stage, would do way better, but it's actually not doing as much. The only way you're going to see bigger numbers on Hu Tao is if you go for a big single hit nuke and trying to do that with, you know, really high crit damage, while as well as going for a nice melt reaction with, say, Mona and some other characters. But that's not always a possibility based on where you are in the floors and how everything kind of groups up. So I wanted to give more of a realistic impression of what you can actually see on Hu Tao versus Klee, and show exactly how most people are experiencing the characters with kind of the two biggest meta supports in the game, with both Zhongli and Venti. And of course, not many people do have those characters, but they are the best characters in the game for Genshin Impact, as far as what people have considered the best characters in the game, as far as grouping characters, supporting characters, etc. And I thought that was the best two characters to use for this particular showcase, to show what the best strengths of these two characters would be. Now, I also fell into traps at times where I was on Hu Tao and I realized I was like using Venti at the wrong time, while then switching to Hu Tao, and then realizing my Hu Tao was not able to hit anybody in the Venti swell, so I may have lost a few seconds there. So some misplays came into this place, but because, you know, I'm not perfect, and I end up, you know, making mistakes on team compositions I've never tried before, and while testing things out, it ends up like that. So I never have the perfect overall run when I'm doing this, if I'm not playing the teams ever before and trying to see different strategies with different 4-star weapons. I in fact don't think I've ever run either of these teams when concerned Klee and Venti with Zhongli, because I end up using Klee on other floors, or I end up using Zhongli and Venti separately most of the time. I think it came out really as a fair test between the two characters, even though the talent differences were there and the weapon differences were there, and there's the stat differences, because it was really eye-opening to see the characters come really close as far as how quickly they can clear abyss floors with average weapons, with average, just normal chillin' gameplay, not like going for big showcase damage. So I was really happy to see that Klee is a character that many people can play, and not everyone is going to have to wail for. But if you did like the playstyle of the character, she can still keep up with Hu Tao when 4-star weapons are considered. So I'm not sure which character between the two is going to be better to summon for, because to be honest, I have a ton of fun playing Klee. I think Hu Tao overall is a better character in general and is much more safe. One of the things that you can see about Klee between the two characters is that she is really hard to get right for the animation cancels, whereas Hu Tao is just a charge attack jump on her animation cancels. It's a lot easier to manage. So if you're looking for an easier character, Hu Tao is definitely easier, which, you know, can equate to better, because then you'll play better. But alright guys, my name is Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you guys did enjoy the video, of course, like, subscribe, all the fun stuff, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.